Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. The GST Council's recommendation are not binding on either the central government or the state, said Supreme Court. They said, "Bhai, GST can give you a recommendation, but whether to accept it or not, whether to debate it or not, that is left to the state and left to the central government." This is a very important decision that the Supreme Court did. Let's deep dive into it. Let's find out every aspect of it. GST, what is GST Council, how it is working currently, and all of that. Let's just deep dive into it. And I want you to form an informed opinion whether the court verdict was right or not. This is my topic number one. My topic number two is Hyderabad. There was a rape case, if you remember, in 2019, 27th of November 2019. There were 4 accused. These accused were shot dead by the cops. It was an encounter, according to the cops. And according to Justice V.S. Sirpurkar Commission, which was appointed by the Supreme Court, according to this commission, they say no, this was not an encounter. This was a fake encounter. Let's talk about that. Let's get right into the show. So, like I said, the Supreme Court said that the GST Council suggestions are suggestions, not binding to either the state government or the central government, the union government. Now, further to that, in fact, before I get into the detail, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud said that Parliament intended for the recommendation of the GST Council to only have a persuasive value, particularly when interpreted along with the objective of the GST regime to foster cooperative federalism and harmony between the constituent units. He said, listen, you know what? GST, that is Goods and Service Tax Council, can only recommend. It should be based on the needs and the wants of the state and the union, that is the state government and the union government, to figure out whether to accept it or not accept it, or debate about it, or reject it, or whatever. Finally, it is just a recommendation. Now, what I do not understand is how come this judgment is anything new? What is new about this judgment? Because if you actually look at the defined role of Goods and Service Tax Council, that is the GST Council which we are talking about, the defined role is that it is a constitutional body for making recommendations to union and the state government on issues related to goods and service tax as per Article 279A4. The function of the GST Council includes making recommendation to union and the states on important issues like goods and service tax that may be subjected to blah, 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 blah. Okay, so primarily, the job of GST Council is to make recommendations. Now, the way it used to function now is that they would make recommendation, the center used to accept it, the center used to do whatever it needs to, and it was implemented. The states were not much of a player in this entire process of decision making. This is what currently happens. The court said no. The court said, Baba, both the state and the center, both should have their role to play. Both should be debating on it. Both should be either accepting it or rejecting it. Now, let us understand that why does the center need money and why does the state need money? Let us also understand what is the money, what does the center do with the money that it receives, and what does the state do with the money that it receives. To know that, we'll have to know what are the subjects that comes under the center and what are the subjects that comes under the state. So let's go into all of that before we make up our minds. Okay. Now there are 3 lists: union government subjects, state government subjects, and something which is called as concurrent list. ठीक है? state government subjects are only state government subjects, which is what the state government actually does. State government spends the money. It goes from the state budget. Union government subjects goes from the union government budget. And concurrent list is where both of them contribute. It is a combined effort of both state and center. This is what the story is. Now let us understand. Originally, in union government, there were 97 subjects which were handled by union government. Currently, it has been increased to 100 subjects. Center has taken more power to itself. So 100 subjects currently. Earlier on, like I told you, it was 99. Earlier on, state had 66 subjects, which was under the states. Now, it has been reduced. Like I told you, center took a lot of it in their fold. So, now state has 61 subjects under them. So, center 100, state 61. Okay? This is how it is bifurcated. Interestingly, the concurrent list used to have 47 subjects before, and now it has 52 subjects. Concurrent list, I told you, the combination. It's a joint effort by the state and the union and the union government. Correct, the state and the union government. So, for the state to run their 61 subjects, 61 responsibilities that they have, they need money. And for the center to run their 100 responsibilities. In fact, I'll also give you some of the responsibilities that are there with the center. And defense includes international relationships, ports, railways, highways, communication, banking, etc. The subjects listed under state is as follows. It is public order, police, public health and sanitation, hospitals and dispensaries, so on and so forth. So that's under the state. Concurrent list would include education, forest, trade union, marriage laws, adoption laws, succession laws, so on and so forth. So this comes under the concurrent list. So somewhere down the line, each of these requires budget. Each of these requires money. The state has to pay for dispensaries, for hospitals, for health, for police. The state has to pay, and the center has to pay the army, center has to pay for external affairs, center has to pay for railways, port, etc. So that's how your money, your GST money, the money that you give to the government is bifurcated. Now, how fair would it be that if only the center has a say on how the GST and what GST would be put on what particular product? That may not be fair. The state should have some kind of a say on the pharmaceutical industry, doesn't it? The state should have some kind of a say on education, doesn't it? The state should have some kind of a say on public health and sanitation related product, doesn't it? If the state doesn't have the say, then whatever the central government decide will be finally what is going to happen in the state. So somewhere down the line, for a harmonious relationship between the center and the state, it has to be with the consent of both the center and the state, so that the state safeguards its interest and the people of the state's interest, and the union government safeguards the country's interest. But it has to be in unison. It can't be in isolation. This is what even the court ordered. Now, there is another problem. The other problem is, supposing if the center, or rather if there is too much of federalism, too much of interference from the center, and all the powers are controlled centrally, then this could also lead to unfair political policies, unfair political decisions. I am not saying, therefore, that the state or the centers are doing unfair political decisions or unfair policies. I don't know. But it could lead to that. The government in the center, the political party that formed the government in the center, and the political party that formed the government in the state could be two different political parties, and the political party in the center could ensure that it starves the state of money, budgets, or even policies. Even policies that could make it difficult for the local government, the state government, to run its office. This is possible. Like I said, I am not saying it's happening, but I am saying it is possible. So it is only fair that there is a harmonious relation that happens between both center and states. And for this harmonious relation to happen, the states involvement in decision making is a must, and that is something that is shrinking in this current government. That is a fact. The distance between the state and the central government, or the cracks between the central and the state government, especially when the state government is not a Bharatiya Janata Party run government, is very visible in this country, and that is a fact. That is not deniable. And this rift between the center and the state, just because they are two different political parties, may not be the best thing for our country and for our growth and for the welfare of the people staying in this state. So that's the point I wanted to make as far as this particular topic is concerned. You decide the decision of the Supreme Court was right or wrong. You decide whether states should be given more powers, more opportunity to be part of the decision making, especially when it comes to budgets and when it comes to GST, when it comes to the taxes that the center collects from the people of this country. That's my topic number one. Let's get into my topic number two. On the 27th of November 2019, a young veterinarian was raped and killed in Hyderabad. In fact, outskirts of Hyderabad, in a place called Shadnagar. Four rapists had done this. Mohammad Arif, Chintakunta Chintakeshawalu, Shiva and Naveen. Four of them. Out of these four, I am told two of them were minors. That is, Shiva and Naveen were minors at the time of the incident, based on their school records. Now, according to police, they took these four people to the crime scene, which they have to, so that they can reconstruct the crime, which is very important for them to put their evidence in front of the court. So they got them to reconstruct the crime, and in the process, when they were reconstructing the crime, these guys, they snatched the guns from the police and they tried to fire at the cops, and the cops, 10 of them, fired and killed all four of them. They called it encounter, and it went to court. And Justice V.S. Sirpurkar Commission, which was set up by the Supreme Court, said no, nothing doing. This was not an encounter. This was a fake encounter. The guys were not running. They were brought there, and they were brought there to be shot. And they recommended that all the 10 police officers should be punished. Action should be taken against them. Now, I remember that these 10 officers, they were actually celebrated after they shot these people cold blood. They were celebrated. I remember giving an editorial saying that this is not right. This is not right for our country. This is not right for our law and order system. This is not right. You see, before I get into right and wrong, let us understand a few facts. Are rape victims given justice? No, they are not. Most of the time, it is delayed. A lot of times, a lot of people get away. In this case, possibly those two minors would have got away. They would have walked free after whatever time. They would have walked free because they were minors. So yeah, I do agree that rape victims are not given quick justice. Rape victims at times do not get justice, and minors and all are walked free. So that's wrong. But does that make what these police did right? That's the question we asked tonight. If police becomes the law enforcer and even the judge, then the police may start deciding everything tomorrow. The police is under the control of a political master, and when he is under the control of political master, the police would do what the political master wants him to do tomorrow. He may go and kill an opposition guy just because the political master asked him to do so. We see a lot of that in the police system, don't we? When people are just arrested, don't we see that? So the fact is, trusting a police to go and encounter somebody in the name of self-defense or whatever, is that fair? Should we be celebrating it? Or should we be condemning it? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. And that's the question I asked tonight. And that's the question I ask you. To solve a problem, we cannot be creating another problem. To ensure that we get quick justice for rape victims, we cannot be creating another problem that may be possibly misused, maybe larger than the problem we already have in hand. This is what I wanted to tell you tonight. And now I will see you Monday at 10 p.m. Till then, namaskar.